Hello, and welcome to today's program brought to you by the U.S. Botanic Garden. My name is Courtney Burrs, the online education specialist with the Learning and Outreach team here at the Garden. We're so happy to have you joining us for summer recipes, couscous salad, and zucchini baked online cooking demo with Danielle Cook. Danielle Cook is a culinary educator, nutritionist, cookbook author, and presenter. She has been leading cooking demonstrations in the Washington, D.C. area for over 20 years. She directs her own teaching kitchen where she instructs individuals on taking charge of their nutritional health while having fun cooking. Welcome, Danielle.
Well, thank you, Courtney, and welcome all of you out there in my cyber world. It's wonderful to be back for another class, another cooking demo on a topic that is very, very near and dear to me, seasonal whole foods. And today, of course, being August, I'm focusing in on all the incredible bounty that is in our farmers markets right now. And goodness knows it's a kaleidoscope and we have tons of things to choose from. But I really wanted to bring to you today two very different recipes, and yet two recipes that work really well together. So I'm going to focus today on a couscous recipe. These are both recipes that I've adapted from a book new to me that really takes us down to the south of France, which is an area I used to know pretty well growing up because I was fortunate enough our family lived in France and we did spend a fair amount of time in that southern area. One of the things that I love about the cuisine there is that it is actually different than other parts of France, as each region is. But from a health standpoint, this cuisine really focuses on, not surprisingly, the Mediterranean diet. And the south of France, notably Nice, the city of Nice, has a huge influence from Spain and from North Africa as well. So there's a lot of great flavors, a lot of really interesting things that go on in the cuisine there. And that is one of the things that I want to showcase with you today. So I'm going to start by working on our couscous salad, which this has an influence, the flavorings have an influence of Northern Africa, couscous being, of course, a Moroccan, North African dish. And there's so much you can do with that particular grain. So I'm going to go ahead and hop on my overhead camera so we can get cooking and enjoy the next hour full of beautiful colors and beautiful, interesting things to learn and beautiful flavors as well. So the things that I have picked from my market this weekend, or this couple days ago, are these wonderful array of zucchinis, squash. And, this is what we have going right now. Peppers, squash, these wonderful tomatoes, which are in all kinds of multicolors. You can do all kinds of things with those, including I will talk you through that as we go through these recipes. Look at these beautiful tomatoes that actually were grown in my sister Adrienne's garden. Applause for her. She really is a master gardener. So the summer bounty is just really, as I said, really, really fantastic. So our couscous salad begins with a baseline of couscous. And couscous is a wheat grain. Today I am using a pearled couscous, not the medium couscous. The pearled couscous are larger, and in this one, as you can probably see, there's there's some in green and some sort of an orange yellow. That's just a color combination that I think I love in this dish. This is not unlike if you have worked with quinoa. Sometimes you see white quinoa or red quinoa or black quinoa or a blend. Same concept with the couscous. So I'm going to go ahead and cook some of this up. Couscous cooks up really quickly, so it's a great grain to have on hand if you're in a hurry. And by the time it's cooked, you can have the rest of this dish put together. So I'm going to go ahead. I've got some water boiling, and I'm going to go ahead and add to it a half a cup of couscous. And when you do this, you can use water, you can use broth, you could even use any kind of vegetable broth. But one of the things that I also like to put in when I'm cooking, when I have a surplus of tomato juice, like if you're chopping tomatoes, I've been doing a lot of canning. There's a lot of runoff. You can hold on to that juice and use it in the grains that you're cooking. And so that's something also to keep in mind, that lots of tomatoes this time of year, lots of juicy tomatoes, and you can reuse the runoff from that for something like this couscous, adding a little bit more nutrition. So in addition, we are going to be using a little bit of green squash and yellow squash. So everything we're going to cut for this recipe, the vegetables all need to be diced, not in a huge dice. I have, here we go. About this size. I've got the onion already ready to saute, and we're going to flip over to the cooktop and watch all that happen in just a minute. But prepping the zucchinis and the yellow squash here, I slid it down the middle. Just have a couscous boiling over on the cooktop there already. Slid it down the middle. I like to cut it in thirds, about thirds, and then just do a nice dice. Very, very easy. And, it doesn't have to be a gorgeously symmetrical, perfect cut, but you get the idea by just doing this. Look and see in your farmer's market, maybe somebody's handing over to you extra produce that's growing in abundance in their garden. So you can get kind of creative with this dish. I've written it up to use just the zucchini and peppers and onion, but you could make this more on the ratatouille kind of a bend, and you could put some chopped eggplant in this. That would work really well as in addition. I mean, there's just so much that's going on this time of year in terms of the flavoring, so many choices with herbs as well. I think that looks about right, about equal parts. That the yellow one was a little bit smaller than the green. Okay, on peppers, I'm just going to give you a quick demonstration of how I like to do peppers to keep the size kind of uniform. I like to cut strips, but not detach from the top part of the pepper. Just do strips right down the middle. This is kind of a little nice technique tip so that it almost makes like a fan shape, but they're all held together. And then you can just slice right through in the other direction. It makes quick work of chopping a pepper. Everything stays in place on your cutting board. You're not chasing little pieces all over the place, and you don't have to just do one piece at a time. So they're all lined up, and easy makes it really easy and quick to quickly dice a lot of peppers. And then you've got the end piece where it was attached, and that you just cut in the other direction. Okay. So with that, we have the base of our saute and our onions, and I want to get this whole thing cooked up real quickly. So if there are any questions at this juncture, please field them to me while I make a quick camera switch, and then we can take a look at what's going on my cooktop. Any questions, Courtney?
Oh, yes. Well, one, we wanted to give you the shout out for the pepper cutting tips. We're loving those. And we just wanted to make sure, is this the same as Israeli couscous?
Yes.
Pearl? Okay.
Yes, curled is the same. It is different from medium couscous, however. It is different from the medium couscous. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. And then if the skin of the yellow zucchini is hard, does it need to be peeled?
I don't peel the yellow zucchini. What you're looking for on the zucchini, try to select them, feel them. They should feel quite similar to the green zucchini. If you get any part of it that is really kind of rough at the end, then you might want to do a little bit of a peel. The other option is these are patty pan squash. These are wonderful. You can use these as well. These make great. You can stuff these, take the top off and do a whole stuffing thing. But these are also, the flavor is very, very similar, but you could do a very small cut on the patty pans as well. But yeah, I mean, really, you shouldn't have a rough skin on those yellow ones. Not this time of year, at least.
Okay. And before we go on, just can you find whole wheat pearl couscous?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yes, you should be able to. I not sure which brands, but yes, the couscous is now available in white or as a whole wheat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And for our protein lovers, how about using quinoa instead of couscous?
Totally can do that. Absolutely. This would work great. If you can't do the wheat, if it's gluten sensitive or whatever, yes, you can absolutely substitute.
All righty.
Here we are. We're going to do a quick saute over a medium-high heat. So you want this to be cooking, fairly quickly. You don't want to make these vegetables soggy, but you want them to golden up and just kind of relax a bit, You don't want them browned or caramelized with the onion. You just want to do a quick saute. I'm going to add a little bit more heat there. And then I'm going to show you that the couscous is now all fluffed up and ready to go. So I'm going to just set it aside to no more heat on the couscous. We're just going to let it sort of steam cook a little bit more while this gets done. Now, we are going to be putting some fresh herbs in this. I'm a big fan of lots of fresh herbs. They're very healthful, very necessary in the diet, very, very good for you. We're going to put some mint in this dish today, but so some mint, and then I'm also going to add some chopped parsley. You could go in many different directions with the different kind of herbs that would suit this. Fresh basil, obviously, is a big star this time of year. Lots of basil in the markets all over the place. So you could do basil, you could do fresh dill, you could do a combination of a lot of things. You could even do cilantro if you're a big cilantro fan. I would go kind of judicious on that just because of the other flavorings that come through. You don't want to make this too dominant with cilantro because it has a very pungent flavor. But if you want the real seasonal summer flavoring, I would say fresh basil and or fresh mint would be great. So now I'm going to add just a pinch of salt. The reason I'm doing that is salt builds flavor in dishes, but also the salt will help draw out the moisture of the vegetables and will help the zucchini in particular, the squash. It will help it cook a little bit more quickly. All right, this looks great. All right, so we're going to just let that go for a second. And I want to show you a couple things on my up here. So here we have the mint, fresh mint, beautiful fresh mint, parsley, lots of basil. And one of the things that's really going to shine in this dish is going to be, we're going to add very, very Northern African flavoring of that dried fruit and couscous combo. We're going to put in some golden raisins, some beautiful golden raisins. And let's go ahead and start getting ready to spool the entire dish together by assembling everything. So let's go ahead and have another look on our overhead here. I want to bring in my salad bowl. I'm going to bring in my couscous. Now, little side note, if you're using you don't have to use these golden raisins, although I really do love them. I find them to be a little less sugary than some of the other raisins out there. But you could put currants in this, or other, just the Thompson grapes. Or Thompson raisins, excuse me. If you have stuff on hand that has gotten a little bit dried out in your pantry, that happens. What you can do is just toss the raisins directly into the hot couscous like this. These are actually quite fresh and plump, but you could definitely just set the dried raisins in there and just cover them for a few minutes and let those raisins get plumped up. We don't need to do that right here because we've got enough. They're moist enough. I've got a little bit more couscous that I cooked earlier, just because I wanted to kind of make sure we weren't losing too much time waiting for things to cook here. So we've got that nicely mixed. And now let me just get my pot holder so I don't burn my hands. The veggies go in. Smells great. Smells lovely. Smells like ratatouille almost. Give that a stir. Okay. And now for our flavoring, we're going to use, first and foremost, cumin. So I'm going to put a teaspoon of cumin. Doesn't that look so colorful and just really summery? I love this dish. What did I say? A teaspoon of cumin, yes. I want to make sure I don't grab the wrong thing here. I love this dish with you can add if you have another vegetable dish, I had it recently with a big scoop of ratatouille on top, and it was really, really fantastic. Cumin, a little bit of chili powder. We're going to do a half of chili powder. And a pinch of cinnamon, just a tiny little pinch of cinnamon. And the reason we're doing that is, again, we're tying back into that sort of North African traditional couscous seasonings. And you really need just a pinch, literally. You can really load up on a lot more vegetables if you like. This is sort of showcasing the vegetables, of course, and also a balance with the couscous as the grain. But you can have this dominant in vegetables if you prefer. And now we're going to do some parsley. And I'm going to chop a little bit of mint. I'm going to just set this to the side. And the way I like to do my mint, wonderful digestive, it's even considered brain food, mint is, because it's got that minty smell, right? When you inhale a big smell of it, it just like your brain wakes up. So I'm going to do about 1/4 cup. This is really subjective. If you love more, you can do more. I find that mint can be a little bit dominant. So I'm not going to go really, really wild on it. Just thin slices of mint. And as I said earlier, there's so many beautiful beautiful herbs that you can use in this dish. It doesn't have to be the mint, but it certainly makes for a very lively, popping dish with the mint. I didn't have much salt in this. If you use vegetable broth in your couscous, when you cook your couscous, you need to be mindful that the vegetable broths contain sodium. They have salt in them, so you want to be careful on how much more you add on the on the salt. And one good trick I always like to do in my salads is fresh squeezed lemon juice. That also reduces the need for salt. Just a little splash of lemon juice. And then you're going to want to taste it and figure out if you need to add maybe a little bit, another little jug of olive oil to make it creamy. And remember that this is a dish that is coming to you from the southern part of France in the Mediterranean. So there's a lot of olive oil that's used in the cuisine. So you can certainly not feel guilty if you want to put in a little bit more olive oil. I think sometimes when you're not sure what's missing in a dish, you think about, does it need something to be a little more creamy? That's a great time to do an olive oil and maybe a little dash of extra salt, some pepper. But here you have this very, very beautiful, incredibly healthy, just beautiful mixture of lots of color, lots of flavor, and super easy to make. We put this together in literally 15, 20 minutes.
And it is beautiful. I can imagine that it smells heavenly.
It does. I'm inhaling the mint.
Oh my! What type of mint did you use?
So this is just a store-bought mint. It's I think it's probably a spearmint. I don't have the tag on it anymore, but mint grows wild. It's a weed. So mint is very invasive. It's the easiest thing to grow. It comes back every year. And there are different kinds of mints for sure, but this is just whatever was in Whole Foods the other day.
Okay. Now, when you first started mixing, we have some folks that wanted to know, could you use dried cranberries or add nuts to it outside of the golden raisins or as a substitute?
You absolutely could. Now, you can go, as I've been saying, you can go in many directions with this. I think adding nuts would be delicious. I would probably toast them a little bit before you added them. Toast them as in either get them warmed up in a skillet with no oil, nothing, or you can put them in the oven for about 4 or 5 minutes. I think almonds would be my go-to nut in this. Okay. Pistachios would be wonderful. They are kind of on the expensive side. So, pistachios work nicely with this in terms of that sort of the couscous, that sort of, culinary bend, if you will. But I think slivered almonds would be really wonderful in this. The other thing that if you want to increase protein is you could put garbanzo beans, chickpeas in this. That would be delicious.
Yes. Okay. Now, when we say golden raisins, is it the same as we had a question about? Is it the same as sultanas? Is that the same? The sultanas?
No.
Okay.
They're actually called golden raisins.
Okay, so they're golden raisins.
They're very, very similar. The sultanas would be equally fine, but these are actually called golden raisins.
Okay.
Let me just, the box is over there. But they are actually different. The sultanas are a little bit darker in color. These are really very, very golden, really golden. Sultanas tend to be more on the browner side. Okay. But interchangeable, I think. Safely interchangeable.
Okay. All righty. Now, we had another question about Mediterranean countries. We know Mediterranean countries have their own olive oils, but never heard of French olive oil. Is French olive oil available?
Yes, absolutely. It's produced in the south of France. France is a huge producer of olives, as are Italy and other parts of the Mediterranean. Every one of those countries vie for their own, feel their olive oil is superior to the next one. There's Spanish olive oil, Italian, Greek, Tunisian, French, Sicilian, you name it. So it's whatever you like. Honestly, it's whatever you like. And sometimes I use one for one thing. A lot of the sauteing and cooking I'm doing, I use a lot of Italian. But when I'm making dressings, I love Greek olive oil. That's just my personal flavoring. And the French olive oil is also very, very good. To me, it's more robust than the Greek olive oils.
Huh. That's awesome. Yeah, it seems like each would have its own little nuance, like a little something that you would like a little bit more than the other.
Yeah. Nuance is a good, excellent term.
Yes. Awesome. Okay, and then right before we go to our next recipe, we do want to know some other vegetables. We like the mint. We know you mentioned the mint, and what are some other vegetables that we can add in there?
So I did mention you could do, if you're doing this quick saute, you could chop up some eggplant into small dice and have that as well. Or here's another option. If you don't want to do this as a warm dish, you can totally go raw vegetables. And you could do, one of the things that I would recommend you try is to go sort of the tabbouleh angle. So you've got the couscous as your grain, and then you can do chopped tomatoes and chopped cucumbers and chopped red onion, and then lemon juice, same thing, lemon juice, mint, parsley, and try it that way. And you could even put a little feta cheese in this, little chunks of bits of feta cheese or goat cheese. But you know, this can be completely dairy free and free of all animal products and still have incredible flavor. So the couscous as a grain is just wonderful to work with. I love it just as much as I love quinoa, because you can really use it as the canvas for building a wonderful salad.
Yeah, we have someone in the audience says, "You had me at goat cheese." Like, oh, so you'll really love the zucchini bake then. Yeah.
Oh, yes. This zucchini bake is going to be really up your alley. Wait until we see that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But yeah, it looks like we're about ready for there. I don't see too many more questions I think folks are just really excited about making.
Excellent. Let's stay excited and let's switch it up here. And I'm going to just move a couple things around so we can get ready for the next recipe.
Wonderful. And look, we have some folks that are going to take your recipe with them to France because they're preparing for a trip. So,
oh my goodness, you're not going to need this in France. You're going to be eating over there. Don't spend your time cooking. Spend your time eating with all the wonderful options that are there. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at what are we doing with this next recipe. And this one is also a fun one. We're going to go back over to the counter and have a look here. All right, so I'm going to use up the other half of the zucchini that we had before. And the background here, I am going to go ahead and get my pan warmed up. So this is what the French call, this dish is called a tian, T-I-A-N. Tian is essentially, in this tian that we're making, it's like a casserole, but it's an amped up, nicer version of a bake. And so it's going to have eggs, a fair amount of eggs. It's going to have a little bit of heavy cream, not a lot, because again, think of it as this is a dish coming from the south of France, Mediterranean. There's not a lot of heavy butter and cream in this cuisine. It's really very driven by olive oils and seasonal fruits and vegetables. Even the desserts there tend to be more on the fruit side and less on there. Of course, there's going to be some pastry elements, but even the sweeteners, lots of beekeepers throughout that region. So things are sweetened with honey, more so than just full-on sugars and so forth. So anyway, getting back to our tian, the first thing I want to do is get some of this zucchini cooked up. And the way we're going to do that is to make these into matchsticks. So for matchsticks, you want pieces that are going to be 2 to 3 inches in length, about like this. So you're going to cut your zucchini. You need probably a good pound and a half. About a pound and a half is what you can pack a fair amount of vegetables into this teal. I'm going to cut this into thirds and set these aside. And then my matchstick method is just to cut through the middle. If you have very fat ones, you're going to make at least 3 or 4 cuts across. And then same thing the other direction into matchsticks. Now you can use a combination of yellow and the green. That would be really a nice, colorful variation. You could cut these little guys into matchsticks as well. It's a little bit easier to do it with the traditional, the regular summer squash, like you can see here. This makes easy work of it, just as we did on the first recipe. But whatever you can find, there's also this time of year, there are some beautiful deep golden zucchinis. These are considered yellow squash, but then you've got these other ones that are a very, very deep golden. That's a beautiful combination in this particular dish of having the really golden ones with the bright, beautiful, bright green. Okay. So we've got all that, and I'm going to do a little bit on the yellow just because I want the color combination. And this one, yeah, do it this way. You're going to get pieces that are slightly different in thickness and maybe in length, and that's fine. It's all going to work out in the end. All right, and then this is going to be not unlike kind of like not unlike a quiche, only quiches have pastry. They sit in a crust, and this one will have, this is just about the filling. The teal is all about what's inside. All right, so there we have our beautiful slices, and I'm going to go ahead and put a little tiny bit of olive oil into my pan. And let that get sauteed. So medium-high heat. What we're going to do here is we want to get these golden, just a little bit golden, maybe a little bit browned. But when you put them in the pan, you just put them in, distribute them evenly, leave them alone. And we will take a look at them in just a minute and see how they're doing. Medium-high heat to really kind of get a nice browning going. And while that's going, I want to prepare my my pan. This is the dish that I'm using for this. It's a 7-inch. No, excuse me. This is a 9-inch pie pan. It's a little bit smaller than your traditional deep dish casserole pans, but it works. It feeds it. You can get easily 4 to 6 servings out of this. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to start by getting a beautiful clove of garlic. And these are very fat cloves of garlic. And I don't need, this one's going to be too much. One is going to be too much in this dish because this is a really big fat clove. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take off a part of it, maybe a third. And with this third, the cut side, I'm going to rub the bottom of the pan. Rub it all over, and boy, can you smell the garlic coming off of that. It smells amazing. Wonderful. And this really does work. This infuses garlic into the dish really nicely. I'm also going to hold on to this piece because I'm going to mince it up in just a minute and add it into our egg mixture. Okay, so that's done. And now we've got a nice little nugget of butter. This is the only butter that's going into the dish. Everything else is going to be just the olive oil, and then eventually will be the cheese, the goat cheese. smear this really well up around the sides as well. And then we have some Parmesan cheese. And I'm going to do this. This is just like, envision as though you're doing a cake and you do the greasing the bottom of the cake pan and you put flour for cakes. Well, we are doing a little bit of Parmesan cheese. And there we go. So what this is going to do is as it bakes, this is going to form a protective barrier, so to speak, to let the tian, the egg in the mixture, will release around the edges. And so it makes almost like its own crust at the bottom, but nothing's going to stick. I could use a little bit more Parmesan. You want to try to get the edges, the sides pretty well coated as well. But that looks fine. So we're going to set that aside for a second. Put it over here. And then I want to get all my ingredients ready so that all I need to do then is put it all in the pan and get it in the oven. So then the next thing I want to do is get my basil sliced up. And again, the way I like to do this is just to stack the pieces. Stack them. And stack them and roll them. This is what the French call this cut, they call the chiffonade, which basically just means it translates as rags, like a dish rag, but it's just little slices, like, similar to what we did with the mint just before. And this will go, okay, so we can, if you aren't a big fan of the basil like this, fresh basil, you could substitute, you could do parsley in here. You could also, for the zucchini, pairs well with fresh dill. So those are a couple of other options. But the cuisine of the Mediterranean cuisine in south of France, it's all about fresh, 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 and not making things too complicated, not getting too overbearing in one kind of flavoring. It's really about letting the vegetables shine. I think that looks really good. I'm going to go ahead and put these in here for right now. And let's just take a question or two, and then I want to show you the cooktop, what's going on with our zucchini. Any questions?
Hi there. Oh yeah. We always like to start with shout outs. So we are loving these techniques you're giving us here. Starting with the garlic at the bottom, and kind of dusting the pan with Parmesan cheese. Brilliant. This question that we wanted to ask was about, oh goodness, where did it go? It's a good question too. Here we are. Do you have a favorite variety of fresh garlic that's really nice for this dish?
I don't. There's a purveyor out of the Midwest. I think they are a garlic farm that has like something like 40 different varieties. And what I like to get all summer is I like to just buy from different vendors. And, you can tell the freshness of the garlic by just see that. You can see that, that you've got all the stalks hanging on there, and you can just pick it up, feel it. It should feel dry, but not like dried out. It should just feel firm. If the roots are on there, that's a good sign, because the root base will continue to keep it fresher. But in terms of specific varieties, I can't really speak to that. I'm not sure what this one is, but the fresher, the better, obviously. And the farmers markets have great garlic bulbs right now.
Okay, and are you using grated or shredded Parmesan cheese?
I'm using grated.
Okay.
Grated. You could use shredded, but the grated is really like a flour, so it really just it sticks really nicely on there.
Yeah, yeah. What about sherbet? Would sherbet work in this dish?
Sherbet will be just fine in this dish. Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
good suggestion. Great suggestion. Sherbet would be great in the couscous dish too. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like you said, the veggies are really taking the stage in these
Yes.
dishes. Oh, for
Yeah, well,
sure.
that's as it should be. So let's
Yeah.
take a look. I want to show you what's happening over here. So when you do this, if you have a non-stick pan, that's ideal. You want to shake rather than stir. And the reason being, you can see here, this is getting nice and golden brown. If you start stirring, you can break down the little matchsticks and they can get a little mushy. So you want to be a little bit careful about how you treat when you're doing the stirring part. If you can do it as a shaking, that works really, really well. And then maybe as you need, you can sort of gently break apart the ones that are still sticking together. These do not need to be fully cooked. You want to get them to a point where they're just getting golden or a little bit brown. And as you can see, it doesn't take but about 5, 6, 7 minutes at the most. I have a tendency of wanting to get in there and use this too much, and I have to just remind myself to heed my own advice and don't poke at them, just shake them. But you can already see a very pretty color combination. I hope you can see. I can see a very, very pretty yellow and green color combination. So with that, I did do a batch earlier today, and you can see these are nice and browned, and they're sticking a little bit, but you can pack a lot of vegetables into this dish, which is one of the nice things, right? In terms of using up summer produce, you can really get a lot going, pack an awful lot into this. And I love the fact that this is a dish that it's not heavy. Yes, we're calling it a casserole, but it's like almost frittata-like. Not quite quiche, but it's just a wonderful, especially with the hot days we've had. This serves as a meal in and of itself. So let's go ahead and get the rest of the eggs whipped up and get this thing assembled so it can eventually get into the oven. All right, eggs, 6 eggs. Might seem like a lot for this little container, but for the little pie pan, but this is the liquid part of this dish is all going to be from the eggs. And I've got these nice pasture raised eggs, which are bright orange. They look different than regular eggs because of the fact that the chickens are out in the pasture. 6, 4, 5, 6. Come on. Okay, and to that we are going to whip and add our cream. So it's important to have a little bit of the cream in there because this is what's going to help set this as a custard when it bakes. And now the rest of our garlic, our little piece of garlic. And I'm going to go ahead and put that through the mincer. You don't need much. You know, this is only going to be about maybe a quarter of a teaspoon. That's okay, because we've got, don't forget, there's the rest of the scallions that are already in with the zucchini. So you've got an onion component flavoring. Now you've got the garlic. And we're going to add some pepper, a little bit of fresh ground, just coarse ground pepper. You can use fresh, ground, whatever. And I am going to also do a little bit of salt. I want to go a little bit easy on the salt because the cheese has a salt component as well. Okay, and mix all that nicely. And now we are going to get ready to assemble. So on the assembly, what we're going to do is, I'm actually going to use some of the zucchini that I sauteed earlier today. I'm going to put that on there. That goes in there, and there's not that much there. Let's get the other pan too. This is the one we just did. Just gently. So you need half of it in. Spread it around gently. If you want to get fancy, you can always do a pattern at the very top, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. And now we're going to do, where's our basil? A little bit of basil. You could mix the basil into the egg mixture if you want, but the basil doesn't separate very well when it goes into the liquid. It tends to kind of float to the top. So I like to do it this method where I sprinkle it around. And now we have a 4-ounce log of goat cheese, okay? And half of it's going to go onto this layer. And you just can do a little blobs of it around, which you want to, I wouldn't do huge blobs, but just little bits here and there, so that every time you have a bite, you're going to get a little bit of the cheese. And then you're going to repeat. There we go. So this zucchini and the goat cheese is a really great combination. To me, it's like, burrata and tomatoes. All right, and then we're going to do the same thing again with the rest of the matchsticks. All right, spread that out. It's important to try to keep things as level, not piled up into a cone shape, but just keep things level. Now, this is what I meant. If you wanted to get fancy about things, what you could do is you could roll some of the pieces over so that the green really shows. These are kind of warm, but if you let it cool for a bit, then you can, if you have the time, if you want to take the time to just make, really showcase the different colors, you can do that. I'm looking for another yellow. Bring a yellow up in there. Roll that one so you can really see the green. And you want to do this before you pour the egg mixture into there, because otherwise it gets a little bit messier to try to get in there when the egg and the cream stuff is all over. There, that looks nice. So that's sort of what I've done to try to really bring out the yellow and the green colors. All right, and then we're going to do our basil. And again, the goat cheese. 4 ounces is plenty. You can do, if you feel like that seems like a lot, you don't have to use it all. But it's kind of convenient that the logs do come in 4 ounce chunks, or 4 ounce logs. So that's a nice. You can just, not use one log up, not stick a bunch back in the fridge. I feel like I could have probably put a little bit more on the first layer, but that's okay. Okay. All right. And then what I'm going to do is, just so I there's can be some spillage in the oven. So I'm going to set this on a cookie sheet. Okay. And gently pour all the egg mixture in there, and take your time with this because you need to let it get down into all the little crevices, and maybe give it a little shake. Make sure it just soaks right down in there. See, it's starting to puddle up on the side there. It's gonna be full, but that's okay. It's gonna puff up like a beautiful frittata / omelet. When it bakes, when you pull it out, it'll be absolutely fluffy and gorgeous. And then it will fall, and that's normal. Don't be alarmed. Okay. And that will then go into a 350-degree oven for about 30 minutes, 35 minutes. I set that to the side, and I'm going to show you the baked one. Yum. It's going to come out looking like this. And I will show you by cutting into it. Get a better knife. It's very quiche-like, as I said, but it just pops right out. Pops right out. And there's a nice little golden back side. And there you have, just, sink your teeth into that. This is a great, great food to have on hand. You can even have it for breakfast if you wanted to.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's a wonderful food to have on hand. You can take it to, go take it, pack it for your lunches, pack it, serve it with a salad for dinner, serve it with your couscous salad. How about that? What a great combination. It really works for any kind of a meal. So, questions.
That looks gorgeous and delicious and smells wonderful. I mean, you're hitting all the notes, hitting all the right notes.
That's right.
How about some substitution questions? So folks want to know, how about substituting Greek yogurt for the cream? Will that affect the custardization effect there?
It would. It's a different chemistry because yogurt is essentially a cultured, sort of almost fermented food. The cream is a cream, and that's what creates the custard consistency. So I don't think that would work. I haven't tried it, honestly, but I think you need to just stick with a little bit of the cream. If you really can't do the cream, you can do this straight up just with the egg. I mean, after all, that's what's in frittatas. It's just the egg, whipped egg with the vegetables. So that's fine, but the consistency will not be exactly the way it is in this. And the cream does bring in a little bit of creaminess to it, which is very nice.
I mean, would low fat cream have the same idea, or maybe
no, table cream. Yeah, you could try using table cream. That's what you're referring to. It's a lighter cream. But you need the fat to make that chemical reaction. You need a higher fat content, and the fats in the cream are actually perfectly healthy. We're not sitting down guzzling a quart of heavy cream. It's just when it comes down to it, per bite, it's probably a tablespoon or two. I mean, I think we probably put more half and half in our coffee in the morning than what you would be eating in the way of cream in a serving of this.
Okay. Gotcha. So would adding Greek feta be too overwhelming, or we're thinking about other types of cheeses?
Oh yeah, if you're not into the goat cheese, you could totally do a feta cheese. Now, feta cheeses are made with goat's milk sometimes, or sheep's milk, or cow's milk. So just pay attention to what you're getting. You would want a cow's milk feta, but you could absolutely sub out feta crumbles for that. And if you wanted to go in a little bit of a different direction on the cheese, you could work with either a little bit of grated Swiss, which is what is traditional in quiche. Quiche uses Gruyere, which is a Swiss cheese. The other option in terms of that kind of a slightly harder cheese would be maybe a Jarlsberg or a Fontina. A little bit of that could work.
And what about mushrooms? Folks maybe wants to add some mushrooms.
I think adding mushrooms would be fantastic. I would start cooking the mushrooms first and then add your zucchini sticks, because the mushrooms are going to need a little bit more time than the zucchini. So start the mushrooms for, a few minutes and then add the zucchini sticks. But you could do tian just means casserole, so you can kind of do whatever vegetables you want in this. Another option would be to do this as all mixed sweet bell peppers. You could do a combination of orange and yellow and red bell peppers and just have it a pepper tian. That would be really, really yummy as well. So mushroom is definitely right up there. That's a great suggestion.
Yeah, and thinking, someone's asking if you can make a recipe with Swiss chard next time.
Oh, sure. We can. Yeah, Swiss chard. Yes. And you know what? In the south of France, they eat a lot of Swiss chard, and you could actually turn this into a Swiss chard casserole. You could do it with that. You'd have to cook down the chard a little bit, but you could absolutely make this, think about it, when you think about quiches and, spinach quiche. So this is a tian. You could do a Swiss chard tian, no problem.
Oh, that's awesome. So how long can we keep this in the refrigerator?
Oh, it's not going to last because you're going to eat it,
You're absolutely right.
No, if it doesn't get eaten, it will stay fine for 5 days, easily 3 days, 4 or 5 days. Keep it tightly wrapped, in maybe a Tupperware container.
Okay. All right. And then when we're ready to reheat it, what's the best way?
You could put it in the microwave. I mean, I tend to prefer warming things in the oven because I think it gives it a more even kind of heat. Microwave, sometimes you bite into one place is really hot and the other place is cold. So microwaves I find can change the texture a little bit. It might make it taste a little more spongy. Whereas the heat from an oven or a toaster oven, you just get it really nicely warmed through.
Well, we just want to thank you so much, Danielle, for sharing your skills, your expertise, more yummy recipes. And thank you all for attending today. We are at 1:00. So if you are local to the DC area, we encourage you to come by our kitchen garden and see what veggies are growing. We encourage you to check out our full library of recorded online programs. Even Danielle is featured with some yummy recipes in our playlist. And just a note, you'll receive a brief survey in your inbox for this program. We appreciate your feedback. Thank you all for spending your afternoon with us. And please have a wonderful afternoon.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you.